Would love to hear you guys break down how the COVID year was misleading on Texas A&M, Indiana, Colorado, etc., relative to how they are now. Thanks. Love the show.
This is something we've kind of casually mentioned in the group chat before, and I think on the show, but just I don't know if we've done an entire segment or question to it. And it is something that interests me a lot because I feel like we view certain coaches, and we try not to just look at single seasons when we discuss coaches or programs. We look at kind of a multi-year sample. It informs how we think of them, where the trends are going, all that sort of stuff. And to me, I looked at it, and there are a couple programs that, if you take out their 2020, I do think we view them in distinctly different lights. And you might say, well, wait, it's not really fair to pull out a season. And you guys might say that. And I don't know that I totally disagree with that, to be honest. But I do think if you were going to pull out a season and exclude it because it doesn't match up with what we see in the season before, the season after, or this year, 2020 would make some sense to do so. Because if you talk to people in the sport, some teams really cared. And a lot of teams were just trying to get through this thing, man, on a week-to-week basis. It was not a normal year at all. And I think some of your results from that year are kind of skewed. So I want to throw out a couple teams here. The first is Northwestern. So if you look at Northwestern, okay, not a great program. Obviously, Fitzgerald has done a great job there. In 2020, they went 6-2 in the Big Ten. 2019, 2021, 2022, 3-19 in the Big Ten. Is that kind of a dead program walking that had a really, really experienced team come back in 20 and play in a year where it was hard to practice? You didn't have a lot of continuity in practice. You kind of just rolled with the team you had from the prior year. Got a lot of turnover luck. To me, that's a real obvious one that says, you pull out that 2020 where they made the conference title game, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to go team by team, or do you want to go with the larger picture stuff first?
Yeah, we can go team by team.
I think 2020 was the end of a window for Pat Fitzgerald's program.
They were terrible the year before, though, too.
But in 2018, they were back in 2018, they were in the conference championship game. They won the division outright. They were second in the division in 2017. They finished top 25 in the polls in 2015. For a program like Northwestern, forget even the 2020 period, from 2015 to 2018, 3 top 25 finishes in a 4-year run is bananas.
Yeah, 36 and 17 in that span.
Yeah, I think that staff changes, and I think that some of the other, the inability to have some, consistent quarterback play. I mean, there's other factors that go into that too, but ultimately for me, it was more like 2020 was the end of a window of unprecedented success for the Northwestern football program.
I also think Northwestern's dealing with a lot of the same stuff Stanford is in the transfer portal era.
Agreed. All right, Texas A&M. 2020, they went 8-1. They went to the Orange Bowl. They argued they should have gotten in the playoff. I don't think they should have. I think if they did, the result would be similar to what happened to that Notre Dame team. 19, 21, and this year, they're 9-11 in the league. Losing record for your $100 million coach. Is that misleading to you? Do you think we judge A&M differently without the COVID year?
Yes. Because I think that the last, obviously 2021, they go into the year they're talked about as a playoff contender. They aren't. And then they put together a huge recruiting class this year, and they're talked about as a playoff contender, and they aren't. And I think that if in 2020 they weren't so close to getting to the playoff, I think that preseason expectation-wise, everybody would be a little bit more skeptical about what that team can be. So, yes, I definitely think 2020's impacted the Aggies.
It's kind of 2020 is doing a lot of work if you believe in what's going on there. A lot of work.
Yeah, because, last year, they started the season ranked number 6, finished the year unranked. This year, they started the season number 6. They are currently unranked.
Exactly. All right, 19, 20, and 21. Indiana went 6-17 in the league. In 2020, they went 6-1. Do we view Indiana differently without the COVID year?
Yeah, no. Well, you're right about this being the COVID year, but I just want to point out I never viewed Indiana differently.
That's true.
Yeah.
Many angry Indiana fans will be quick to point out that I never viewed them differently.
You nailed it with close game luck and yeah.
Points off turnovers, all that kind of stuff.
Also, Kalen DeBoer, Mike Penix.
Yeah.
They hit right on some stuff at the right time. If the 2020 season DeBoer was the OC for 2020, right?
Yes.
Because then it was just 1 year at Fresno State, and then he's off to Washington. Okay. I think that if 2020 had not been a pandemic year, I do think it would have been a cycle up season for the Hoosiers, and that their success would have been a spike in sort of the graph of how many wins they have per year. But
I don't think that they went 0-9 last year, right? In Big Ten play, or 0-8 or 0-9. Yeah. I don't think they would have been 0-9, but I don't think they would have been much better than 2-7 or 3-6.
I think it is fair to point out that A&M and Indiana have also had quarterback injury stuff in this span, especially last year. Indiana was rocked at quarterback, and I mean, A&M obviously lost Haynes King. Having seen Haynes King play this year, I'm not really sure the level of loss that was, but certainly it was somewhat of a downgrade to Calzada. So maybe that's a fair counter to this. And look, I'm not saying that this is, I don't know if you can prove it statistically, but you do view these programs differently, I think, without the COVID year.
The further that we get from it, the less I think that it like Indiana is, as it is sitting, in its current state in the middle of the 2022 season, is not doing a whole lot of like, yeah, but remember that?
Yeah, but let's frame it this way. And I don't know if I hate doing this, but is Tom Allen still the coach at Indiana, if not for 2020?
Does Indiana fire a coach for going 6-17 in the Big Ten? I mean, like historically, are they better than a 250 or than a 250 win percentage in the league?
I mean,
so I said earlier that Jimbo Fisher is inflation era Kevin Sumlin. Without 2020, he's not even Kevin Sumlin vintage.
Yeah, they're worse.
Mm-hmm.
And more importantly, boring worse, right? Like one of the things we've always said on the show is you can't be bad and boring. And that offense, when you're not winning games, is unwatchable. I don't know. Just something I wanted to kind of, Colorado too kind of fits this, but we should probably move on because it's boring. It was only 4 games and they've already fired their coach.
Mm-hmm. And also, they also had like the whole Mel Tucker leaving at the very last minute kind of, you know what I mean? So
right. Yeah. Yeah.
That was just crazy random chance. It was great while it was going on, though.
I mean, there has to, so much of college football and so much of the game of football on the like very basic level, people talk about overcoming adversity. I found myself giving some credit. The teams that cared, the teams that decided that they wanted to, that they wanted to try to put a product on the field and be proud of it. I didn't want to totally write it off, but you're 100% right. If the question is being started as, do we view these programs differently? Then I think the answer is absolutely yes.
Mm-hmm.